Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to PSGL. George Morgan here, your commentator, alongside me, TK, who is going to be rounding off the season with me. Down the inside, absolutely impossible scene.
This is for the win between these two.
I'm on the edge of my seat.
He needs to get it done now.
Blakey will dive to the inside.
We'll go bust. We got our elbows out.
Ronar takes the lead.
Because here comes Alfie Butcher.
Can't really complain with that one.
It's not going to be easy. The pressure is on, of course.
Yarda Watmere is your champion.
Morning, good afternoon, and good evening wherever you are in the world, and welcome back to PSGL Season 41. We are back here for PCF 3, and the question remains tonight, will we see a champion crowned? Francesco Largo has his first opportunity to take the title this evening here at Sao Paulo. He has many foes trying to stop him over the course of the next 36 laps. My name is Max Ring. I'll be taking you through all of the action alongside my good friend in COCOM, Myth Sky. How are you, Myth, on this Thursday evening?
Doing very well tonight. Very excited too for the race here in Brazil. Already round 10 out of 11. And as Max said, indeed, we might see a champion crowned as early as this evening as Francesco Largo was defending a 7-point lead over Tomasetto Alaya. Now we had 6 drivers all in total up for championship contention tonight mathematically, but after Yves Gobadi decided to not participate this very evening, that means we are already down to 5, and we could go down to as little as 1 and crown a champion here tonight if Largo manages to do well. And what better way to do it at a track where so many champions have been crowned in the past. But we'll have to see. Will there be one crowned tonight? Or will the fight go all the way to next week when we head to Abu Dhabi?
That is the big question. Let's quickly have a look at the standings just before we head track side. As you can see, Largo with that 7-point lead over Tomasetto Alaya. If we're talking about the real-life point system, it may seem a bit more easier for Francesco Largo to get it done. But with only 17 points on offer, 1 for pole position and 16 for a race victory, makes it that ever so slightly harder, especially that gap from first to second being only 4 points. But we've then got Alexander Dimas. He's 16 points back. He can still keep himself in play tonight, but will need to outscore Francesco Largo. Same with Vaso and Tamas Kokeni, who are both 24 and 26 points back, respectively. It's going to be an exciting one. It's 6 drivers in contention for this one. We'll see who comes out on top as we now head track side. You can see the drivers now out on the track in qualifying. The first driver round will be Zalan Bieda in the Alpine. Let's see what the Alpine can do to be setting a benchmark here, Myth.
Yes, indeed. And if we're looking at the weather outside, it's looking rather dark. And seeing a couple of drivers exit pit lane in about 15-20 seconds might mean that we have some weather changes later on during this qualifying session. But we're first going to see how Zalan Bieder is going to take on his lap as he's now powering down the main straight and heading into those Senna S's. Turn 1 and 2, named after the world famous driver from Brazil, the home hero, as he now comes around in 3, down the Reto Aposta towards the Cida do Lago. But Sector 1's a 17.0. That's a pretty decent sector time as he takes turn 4 and 5 ever so nicely. Now going into the tricky second sector. Now it's very tight here. The margins for error are slim. If you can keep it on track nicely, make sure you take a lot of curb and entry too, then you will gain an awful lot of lap time. Now it's already making its way towards the latter stages. Again, take it tight. Could be a little bit tighter, but sees that the car is lifting ever so slightly. Towards the end of the second sector, we're at a 50.8. That will see improved by a couple of tenths. Now, slightly overshooting there onto Junkao. So we might see a couple of tenths that he has dropped there. But now moving towards the start-finish straight, the first lap time set tonight is a 106.7. That will be the time to beat, but I think Max will dive into the 106.4s later on down the line.
Yes, I think we certainly might. Here comes Claudio Diaz to the line. He also sets a 6.7. Very nicely done from him. Casper Flack also joins into that party. Plenty of drivers in the 6.7s at the moment. We now have Boba.
You did not just say that.
I did say that. I did just say that. 16 Lindhart also joins them. Same with Lucas Baisner. Everybody so far in the 6.7s. Finally, we have someone break the streak of Wojtek Steg. Here comes Boba to the line. What can he do in the Ferrari? He also now goes in a 6.7.44. It is oh so close throughout the field at the moment. Somersetto Alaya has started. He's Lapadovsky now goes fastest of all. But of course, Alaya and Largo, the ones really to watch here this evening. They're the ones that are really in contention for that title. And for Alaya heading into Pico to Pato, it seems to be quite a tidy middle sector so far.
Yeah, there we go then. For Tomasetto Alaya is at a 50.7, so it's about half a tenth quicker than I just saw. Where is the man? Giovanni Kennis do. So I think Tomasetto Alaya is on for a 106.6, so right around the benchmark that Dennis Langrock set, so around P4, P5. But he comes through in P4. A little bit of mishaps on the screen top right, so indeed a P4 for him so far. Alexander Dimas actually still in pit lane, so no lap from him to be set yet. The other drivers up in championship contention, Tomasco Kenny with a 50.9 in that middle sector. Not the greatest of lap times, will finish his lap all the way through though, and he will come round in P13, not the lap that he was hoping for. Francesco Lago in sector 1 dove into the 116, so 16.9 I should say. As he now makes his way through the Pico de Bato into Mergulho, and then we will find out what that next sector lap time is. 50.7, so right on the bat where we saw Tomasetto Alaya. So it looks like Lago will be slotting in nicely in a 106.6s, but it is a little bit of a gap to the likes of Wojtek Steg, Steven Vasso, and of course Oleg Napadovsky with that 106.502. Some great lap times straight off the bat, Max.
Yeah, some very spectacular that time straight away. It seems like we've got our own little groups at the moment, where you've got the drivers in the 0.5s, drivers in the 0.6, and then the drivers in the 0.7s. It is also close throughout this field so far. Here comes Kuya to the line. First driver that dips below those 0.7s and the 1 minute 6.8, so he's slowest of all thus far. What about Valentino Labella? He's about a tenth quicker than what we just saw Kuya do through the middle sector, so he's potentially threatening a 0.7 or a 0.6. DRS now open for the Haas driver as he comes to the line. And what is Valentino Labella going to do? He also joins the 6-7 club and he goes 9th fastest. Dimas finally out on the road. Of course, so far this season, he's been quite strong in the early part, wasn't he, Miff? And then he's dipped off ever so slightly coming to the second half of the season. Qualifying's just not gone his way. But if he wants those championship chances to be kept alive, he needs a big afternoon.
Yeah, the last 3 races, he hasn't scored a lot. I believe in P8, P9, and last week out as Casper Flack is a massive moment down the Sen S's, so his second lap will be aborted there. But yeah, last week out in Saudi Arabia, Alexander Dimas, after of course serving that qualifying ban, could not get past P16. And ironically, he's also 16 points down on championship leader Francesco Lago. So as we mentioned before, Alexander Dimas needs to outscore your championship leader, otherwise he will not be able to continue that championship fight and will be out of it. But I'm curious to see how well he is doing. He has just started his lap. He's now making his way down to the Cida del Lago, so we're gunning for a 16.9, and Dimas is indeed right on that benchmark with a 16.9 indeed.
Yes, that's a lovely first sector from Alexander Dimas. Really needs Even if it is just to get the pole position, just to get that extra point, that gives him even more of a fighting chance. Of course, every driver in this session aiming for pole, especially Largo and Alaya, but for Dimas, it really would keep him alive in this championship. So, for Alexander Dimas, through the Pico to Bato, we're having a lovely off-board shot to show the elevation changes, the undulations through this part of the circuit. 50.7 in that middle sector, about 2/10 quicker than Valentino Labella. So could this rival Oleg Napadovsky's lap time? It was a little bit squirrely out of Yin Sao, but up to the line for Dimas. Can he snatch provisional pole away? No! 3,000ths of a second separate the two Mercedes cars. The Silver Arrows are on top at the moment, but for Dimas, he'll be bitterly disappointed in this early part of the stage not to take the upper hand.
No, but quite on the contrary, that's a great benchmark lap time, and putting the Mercedes 1 and 2, and more crucially, ahead of his main championship rival in Francesco Lago, who is down exactly 1/10 and still in pit lane waiting to go for his second lap. Who is on the second lap, though, is Lucas Beisner, currently in P15. Was just ever so slightly quicker in that first sector, but still in the 17.0s as he's now making his way through that twisty second sector where he's hoping to gain at least a 10. Slightly overshoots at turn 10 Bicudabato, but now going downhill, we see that he is indeed up by about a 10th, but with a 50.8 is not going to threaten the main drivers up on top. He's right on the time of his teammate, that is Dennis Langrock. Might see him slot in P8 or P9, likely P9, and indeed he goes into P9. So a pretty good second run, but I think Beisner knows that there might be another 10th in it there.
Yeah, I think he certainly does. His teammate Langrock backed out, and he's going to be going again for another attempt. Jensen Rowson is up by nearly a 10th of a second. So could we see Rowson, if he gets a good Yin Sao, streak to the top of the times, or even a front row separating the two Mercedes and make it even more bare margins between the top guys here across the line? He's third fastest, still only 200ths of a second behind on, of course, Oleg Napadovsky, who's had a shocking season. Could this be a brilliant return to form for the Mercedes man? 16 Linhart to the line. He's aborted and going for another attempt. I think Francesco Largo is on a run currently. Yes, he is. He's just starting a lap, but invalidates. So he should go on board with Wojtek Steg, who's done the same thing. Seems that the track limits are really biting at the moment.
Yeah, and further down the line, we find Oleg Napadovsky. But the thing that I find interesting, his first sector was a 17.05. So he's about a 10th slower than a lot of the drivers behind him. Now, he was already down that middle sector, does gain ever so slightly in that final sector. But that means that for Oleg Napadovsky, he set a blistering second sector before, especially in the first sector. There is some time to gain for him. So he knows he can dive into the 106.4s. Or perhaps even more. So he is a man that we need to watch out for later down the line, as I believe Francesco Largo was invalidated. Zalan Bieder, he did improve on his lap time. He is now in P6. Quickly trying to flick through to see which drivers are on a hot lap. Elia is invalidated. That is Langrock is harvesting. Beisner is in pit lane. Ken is not on a quick run. Labella neither. Maybe Claudio Diaz is on for a run. And Vaso as well. Claudio Diaz is the first one to come across the line. He goes fourth fastest. That's a great lap time from him. And Vaso is up by a 10. This could be the new fastest lap time. Steven Vaso to the line. He goes into the 106.3s. That's an amazing lap time for the McLaren driver. And that is exactly what you need to do when you're in that championship fight.
It certainly is. That's spectacular from Steven Vaso. Could that be the lap that keeps his title hopes in the picture and potentially gives him the opportunity to really outscore Largo and Elia, who are currently 9th and 10th in this session? Bieda, of course, going to be coming into pit lane. Elia down in the first sector. Didn't see what Largo was doing. But we'll go back to Wojtek Steg, who's just heading through the middle sector. Kennis up into second place now. If Steg can repeat that feat, that's going to be spectacular for both the Red Bulls. It's 300s of an improvement for Steg through that middle part of the lap, but a nice run out of Yin Sao might just allow him to find that little bit more time to potentially put him onto that second row of the grid. It's DRS open, a tight run to the line. What's it going to be for Steg? Stays 7th fastest. Over to you, Francesco Largo, who's down in 11th place currently, as that was the Bella moving himself up into 7th. Francesco Largo, is he improving? Has he found enough time on the lap to put himself back in that top 10? He has, and he's up into 3rd place. Spectacular there from Largo, and Elia to the line. He goes into 8th place. Not particularly strong there from Elia, but it's oh so close throughout this field as Dimas goes into 2nd.
A great lap from Alexander Dimas as well, especially gaining an awful lot of time in that final sector where it was not his best. He was down on his own personal best in that first sector, but still with a 16.9. That is not a bad benchmark to set whatsoever. So Dimas seems to be on form. He is 2 places ahead of Lago. That would at least be enough to keep himself in that fight. For Vaso, he will need to gain an awful lot of points onto Lago, as he's down more than 20 points in the championship with 2 races to go. But remember, picking up pole position here tonight will already grant you that single point that might help you further down the line. Now we are heading into the final couple of minutes of this qualifying session. It looks like the weather has remained unchanged, so I don't think we're going to see any rain throughout this session, which is good news indeed. A lot of drivers are currently in pit lane. 4 drivers still out. They will now be heading into pit lane. And then we're going to prepare Max for our final runs this session to see if anyone can challenge Steven Vassal's 106.3. But I think that's a pretty darn good lap time and very, very tough to beat.
Oh, it is extremely tough to beat, is that lap time from Steven Vasso. Just look at the gaps in the field. 4 tenths separate 18 cars, and down to 14th. It's under 3 tenths of a second. It is so ridiculously close that if you find a 10th, if you're in Dennis Lanrock's shoes, you go from all the way down in 14th up to 7th. That is a 7-place improvement just through 1 tenth alone, which can easily be found, especially through that middle sector. So, as the drivers now make their way on to the road, the first one round will be said man Dennis Lanrock, currently on a 6.6. Could he see himself dance into the 5s, or even potentially shoot himself into the 4s?
Yeah, and I think for this final run, we should have a nice onboard view so we can see him battling through those elevation changes, the blind corners that he's going to attack, and of course, those lovely Senna S's down in the first sector. But Dennis Langrock is now powering it down the main straight, coming through the Subida de boxes and now towards Arquibancadas. I hope I say that well before he heads onto the start-finish straight. And it looks like he's holding back, so he's not going for a flyer. He's going for an extra warm-up lap, Max. So that onboard view was sadly abruptly ended, but maybe we can do the same with Beisner, who is going full speed into the Senna S's.
Yeah, he certainly is. Lanrock doing a double out lap, a bit more of a riskier play, but it does remove that fuel, and Beisner not happy with how that started, and unfortunately he's backed out of the lap now. Jensen Rowson is on an attempt. He's just about got the lap time started in time to not be impeded by any of the traffic, but runs a little bit wide through the Sino de Largo, and unfortunately invalidates his attempt. Casper Flack, is he starting to improve? Yes, he is. So what is the V-Carb driver going to do? He's currently down in 13th place on a 6.6. A little bit wide from the apex at 8. You really want to be chopping that off, so that's going to cost him dearly through the rest of this middle sector. Really tightens up his run through Pidorinho at turn 9, and then into, of course, the Pico Tapato, turn 10. Again, just a little bit wide from the apex, and it gets all wobbly as he heads down into Yinsao. He's aborted it. I don't think he's going to be able to go again. I don't think he'll have the battery.
Now, with the time left on the clock, 55 seconds, that will not be enough indeed. He does seem to be powering up. He is using that DRS in his battery, but he's going to dive straight into pit lane. So no improvement set by Casper Flag. but I want to look at all the other drivers out there, especially Steven Vassell. Well, he's still holding back, so he's going for an extra cooldown lap as well. Francesco Lago is just starting his lap, so let's watch our championship leader as he makes his way through the Senna S's around the Curva do Sol and onto the Reto Aposta. He knows that this first sector, he needs an ever so slight improvement to be close to everyone else. He's 4 thousandths down of a second, but he is into the 16.9s only ever so much. As we already saw at Casper Flag in his aborted lap, he was at a 16.95, so it's quite a bit faster than Lago was able to do. But the middle sector is where it's key. This is where he needs to have improvement. The flag is currently out, so everyone crossing the line will see their lap time set as is. We will first have an Aston Martin crossing the line, but we'll first see Francesco Lago down that middle sector is up by half a tenth. Now this is crucial because this will be right about enough to beat Alexander Dimas. Will be enough for a P3 and perhaps even a P2. Tomasetto Alaya goes ahead of him. He's in P4. Francesco Lago to the line, goes to P3, just behind Alexander Dimas. But many more drivers to go as Dimas goes fastest at 10th, well, last 100th ahead of Steven Vassell.
It's all kicking off here in the final part of qualifying, the final runs. Kennis is not improving. All eyes now turn to Vasso. Can he respond to Alexander Dimas? Or is the Dutchman just got a little bit too far out of reach? Has he done everything that's possible when extracted everything from the car here this evening? Of course, for Dimas, this will take him 15 points behind. For Vasso, it would be 23 points behind and heading into the Grand Prix. Across the line, he misses out on pole position. And Alexander Dimas, when it's been very, very difficult over those past 3 races, it has been a slugfest to keep himself alive. And when he has to dig deep, he certainly has. And he scores that point for pole position. Alexander Dimas claims pole, but only just over Steven Vasso. But crucially for Francesco Lago, he lines up third and is ahead of his main championship rival, Tomasetto Alaya.
Yeah, Alexander Dimas getting pole here tonight. So he's now 15 points down, as you said, on Francesco Lago. So our former F4 champion from a couple seasons back will now remain, at least till the race, in that championship fight for F3. He's going to be starting on pole position, and he will see his championship competitors be also close. Vasso's one of them. He's in P2. The Francesco Lago championship leader in third. Givano Kennis are standing in P4. Great performance by him. Then we find Tomasetto Alaya, another championship competitor, in fifth, with the other man, Tomasko Kenny, down in ninth. But behind Alaya in sixth, Oleg Dapadowski, followed by Wojtek Steg, Dennis Langrock, Tomasko Kenny, as mentioned, and Jensen Rausen in P10. Then outside the top 10, we find Claudio Diaz, Valentino Labella in 12th, Daniel Kyer in 13th, then it's Zalenbieder, Lucas Beisner, Casper Flag, Boba, and in 18th and final place, Sixten Linhart for the Haas team.
Yeah, that was a very, very eventful qualifying, and even Linhart at the back, he wasn't too far off either. Certainly was oh so close throughout that race. But let's quickly take you through the circuit we are racing at, of course, here in Sao Paulo. 4.309 kilometers or 2.677 miles. 15 turns here this evening in Brazil. It is one of the most historic racing venues on the calendar, with DRS from, of course, the main straight and down the retro poster with the detection zones just after the center S's, just after Ian Dow. This is really going to be where the title could potentially be decided. Even if not, Francesco Lago could put himself one step closer. He could pretty much put one hand on that trophy exiting Brazil tonight. Will it be both? That is the main question. Myth, do you think he can do it?
I hope he can. I hope that they make it interesting all the way throughout this race. Strategy might come a little bit into play, but it looks to be a lot more sunnier than it has before. So Oleg Dapadowski has just left the session. Not sure if that's going to warrant a restart or not, but we have the lights, and with 2, 3, 4, and 5 red lights, away we are with a very early start, and it's the inside line, of course, for Steven Vasso. Immediately wants to dive it down the inside of Alexander Dimas, but we see the man that has just left the session, Oleg Napadovsky, hammered through back to the field, allowing the other drivers to take evasive action and try to overtake without losing too many positions. Ralston is in 8th. He got ahead of Tomas Kokeni. See that another driver that potentially has joined the wrong session has now left the lobby, but we're on our way in the first lap, and it looks like at least the top 3 remain unchanged. Tomasetto Alaya has gone ahead of Francesco Lago at this early start here, Max.
Yeah, that's absolutely crucial for Tomasetto Alaya and Francesco Lago, is the fact that Alaya has got ahead. It's so important that Alaya finishes this race ahead, but crucially, Lago is on that alternate strategy. He did start on the hard. Something's happened to Casper Flack in the background. He's dropped down a few places, and it's 2x2 as they go into Yinsao, but then everybody tucks into their train as Napadovsky is back. He can see with that move to the inside of Casper Flack that he is back in the car. Unfortunately, his bad luck is just completely... If it's not good luck, it's bad luck for Oleg Napadovsky, and that's been the story of this season. Tomasetto Alaya, he's utilised those medium tyres off the line. The better traction to jump in front of Francesco Lago and for Vasso and Dimas. The more places Lago falls, the better for them, especially for Alexander Dimas, because he could go into Abu Dhabi with a real fighting chance.
Yeah, and one of the crucial things that we see here, if we look at the tires, almost the entire field is on the mediums, bar 3 drivers. A couple of drivers in the back have decided to make that decision, Daniel Kaya Boba and Casper Flack. But most interestingly, our championship leader is going for a completely different strategy, starting on the hard compounds, while all of his championship rivals are on the medium. So he's taking a pretty risky approach, but I think he feels like this is the best way to do it. And remember, if he wins the race here tonight, he could get the title if he's ahead far enough of Tomasetto Alaya. If he's not, then he will take it at least with just Alaya down to that final race with over 10 points as a lead that he has to defend in Abu Dhabi. So could do some great work here if he managed to win the race here tonight. But of course, Dimas, Vasso, and Alaya want to stay within that championship fight. Same can be said about Kokeni, but for Kokeni and Vasso, Lago has to at least finish quite far behind. For Dimas, all he needs to do is finish ahead of Tomasetto Alaya, and he will be in it. For now, he's keeping that race lead quite nicely. Just looking quickly at all the positions changed, if there's anything crucial here. Lago's lost 2, one to Kenneth and one to Elias Steg. And of course, almost the entire field is up a couple places because Oleg Napadovsky left the session early on, but has returned to that session. Good news for him. Valentino Lobella down 4 places, down in 16. 1 down for Casper Flack all the way at the end. And 3 places gained for Zalan Peter, Lucas Beisner, Boba, and Sixten Linnard, but all sadly still outside the points match.
Yeah, unfortunate for them so far. With Alexander Dimas, he's pulled away 0.8 of a second over Steven Vasso. He's really flying at the moment, but of course DRS being enabled, Vasso is going to just reel that back in over the course of the next sector, next 2 sectors, should I say, as he head down at Retro Posta in a few moments' time. And for Francesco Lago, he's not dropped down any more places, but he is slowly coming under some pressure from Wojtek Steg, who's going to try capitalise on those mediums early on. Just can't get close enough by the time they hit the brakes in Casino de Lago. Kokeni as well, getting close to the back of Dennis Langrock. Could be some battles forming in this mid-pack of the field and the upper half of the top 10. So for Francesco Lago, he's got to keep his wits about him, because I think at this stage it's just save the tyres, make sure you don't pick up any damage.
Yeah, we just had an overtake from Casper Flag onto Valentina Labella down the Descida de Lago into turn 4. We saw Valentina Labella go off the track here so that Casper Flag could make that overtake. So I'm not sure if that's going to be referred to the stewards later on, but at least it means that Flag on those hards has managed to overtake Labella on the mediums and set him back into P17. If I look at the gaps all the way throughout the field, they seem to be at least large enough not to warrant an overtake, except for Steven Vasso, who is awfully close to the back of Dimas. But I feel like Vasso does not want to overtake Dimas for now. Try to go 1 extra lap longer or shorter than a race leader and overtake him as a result of that pit stop sequence. But for now, we remain in queue. Kokeni actually is awfully close to the back of Dennis Langrock. I see someone go awfully wide. That was Langrock indeed. And Kokeni is ahead. Wonder what happened there though, Max.
Just saw the end of it. We just saw him go a little bit wide and off the road. I'm not sure exactly what happened there to Dennis Langrock. Maybe even got spooked a little bit offline by Kokeni, or just locked the rears under braking, but went off the road and just lost that place to the Hungarian. And for Dennis Langrock, he now needs to try and regroup, try and get that position back. Wojtek Steg is really close now to the back of Francesco Largo. He really has pushed on over the course of this previous lap. Has the Red Bull man, that dirty air just understeering him wide ever so slightly. But as we now head up that main straight, up the hill into the center S's, are we going to see a move be made? Will he use the battery? No, it does not seem so. Happy to just sit where he is. But crucially as well, Largo is starting to just fall further and further away from Elia. So if Steg don't make this move soon, we could be talking about the top 4 breaking away.
Yeah, and on the other hand, Dennis Langrock is trying to get back at Tomas Kokeni as he overshot the first third of the Senate S's, and indeed the same place where Kokeni overtook him last lap in turn 4. It is Dennis Langrock getting back at him, and it shows how a poor exit can immediately ruin your run down the Descida, down the Reto Apposta into the Descida del Lago and cost yourself a position. So keep your eye out for those crucial runouts. Those are both at Juncal, turn 12, and of course turn 3, the Curva del Sol, although the mistake will likely be made in turn 1 or 2 through the Senna S's. We're going to head down the start-finish straight once more, and we're going to start lap 7 out of 36. Will be quite a few laps more until we're going to see our pit stop sequence start. Jensen Rausen is actually awfully close to the back of Tomas Kokeni. He wants to go for an overtake. Kokeni's defending the inside line, so needs to go round the outside, but held off for now. A hard outbreak, though, from Tomas Kokeni, who locks up his rears, and that means that down the Reta Apposta, there will be another overtaking opportunity. A hard defending from the inside, almost pushed on the grass for Jensen Rausen, but he gets through, and Tomas Kokeni, and once again, a mistake into turn 1 costs him a place later down the line.
Certainly has, and Kokeni just seems to be all over the road. He's lost all rotation from that front end, it seems. Really poor Yun Sao, and then it's just completely dipped in pace ever since then. Casper Flack now getting past 16 Linhart for that 15th place into turn 8. Yeah, for Tomasz Kokeni, one of the championship drivers, still fighting for his chance at the title. Yes, it was a long shot, but it's still possible here this evening. Fortunately, has just completely dropped off in performance over the course of these past 2 laps. As soon as he got passed by Langrock, I think he might have ruffled his feathers. He's just not been able to regroup since then. But here comes Steven Vasso and Alexander Dimas. He's got that move done as Vasso, and he now moves to the top of the pecking order. So he's now into the race lead. Giovanni Kennis could potentially now capitalise and go for a move on Dimas, but doesn't seem to be close enough for now. But I think that's going to be all the moves down into turn 1 on the Retro Apposta, because Steg just a little bit too far back on Largo. And Largo, I said he might drop off a bit, but he has caught back up, as I think those hards have swung into being the faster tyre.
Yeah, that is the good news for him. He has been able to keep up. He has lost 2 positions so far, but it's not cost him the end of the world just yet. The only problem that he's going to have later on down the line in that second stint is that the other hard runners start only at P13, where he is in P5, so likely will not be able to play any DRS games to catch up with the medium runners, and will have to do it all on their own pace, while most of the medium runners after pit stop sequence are going to be in a DRS train of one another. That might be the real harm to his strategy, and if he does not overcome that, Max, we could very well see Lago finish outside of the top 5, and for the likes of Vasso, Dimas, and Elia, could be amazing news. Tomas Kokeni really needs to do something different here if he wants to gain back a lot of points on Lago, because otherwise, after tonight, he will be out of championship contention.
Yeah, he certainly will. I don't know if he came into tonight thinking that it was still on. It was very much a difficult task. He would need to outscore by at least 10 points to even keep within contention, to go into it with a mathematical possibility. But yeah, for Tamas Kokeni, I think he ruled it out really as soon as he came into the evening. Try and claw back 10 points, especially in this point system format. Pretty much impossible if your championship rival has a somewhat decent race where he gets a decent point paying position. But for Francesco Largo, doing everything right at the moment on those hards. His pace has now dipped again ever so slightly. He seems to struggle a little bit in that middle sector. And then heading through the first and the final sector, seems to pick up that pace ever so slightly. So maybe a lower downforce setup there for Francesco Largo compared to Elia and co. So that could help him potentially in the long run when it goes for moves. Getting oh so close to dropping out of DRS.
Yeah, I'm quickly just trying to flick through all the gaps that we see here as everyone is still within that same DRS train. Looks like Asper Flack is getting very close to the back of Boba, but I don't think he's going to be able to make a move down and turn 4, and indeed he will have to stay behind. Sixten Linhard, though, has to watch out that he doesn't get outside of that 1 second window. He's now 8 tenths down onto Flack, but I think in the middle sector we'll be able to creep up ever so closely behind him. Francesco Largo, I think, has made a slight mistake somewhere. He's now 8 tenths away from Elia up ahead, with Steg breathing down his neck only 3 tenths behind. So we'll have to watch Steg if he can get a good run out of Junsao and hopefully try to make a move. He's trying to take a slightly different line there as Lago, but we've seen Lago make some really good runs there to start his start-finish straight move. So it will be very hard for Steg to overtake him on the start-finish straight. I don't see Lago making any mistakes there. Steg actually goes wide into turn 1. So now he has to watch out for Langrock behind. Langrock was a little bit too far behind to actually initiate that attack, though. So I don't think he has to worry so much yet. And I see Tamas Kokeni taking a very different line out of turn 3, making it a close line. But so far has not hurt his chances either. As Valentino Labella is the first driver into pit lane. He's gone from the mediums onto the hard, so wants to drive 25 laps on them. That seems to be an awful long stint. But it might also mean, Max, in the next couple of laps, we're going to see our drivers come in, although I do think it would be a bit better to wait till, let's say, lap 13 or 14.
Yeah, it could certainly be so. I think we might be on for a 2-stop here this evening. I'm not too sure if I'm correct, but I think I am. I think the 2-stop is the viable strategy here at Brazil, just tire where that you do get. Are we going to see anyone dive into pit lane from the front? It doesn't. So Jensen, he looked like he was going to dive into pit lane, but still ended up staying out. So no, nobody has come in just yet. So we are going to see these drivers carry on going around, and the Bella going to try get the undercut as best as he possibly can on the cars in front of him. Everybody still within DRS range. Francesco Largo is nearly out of it. He's just teetering on the edge of 9 tenths of a second to Tomasetto Elias. So if Elias can push on a little bit further forward, I say that, he's all over the back of Giovanni Chemis heading into turn 6 and 7. Just can't get the move done. You can just see the dirty air whitewashing him out wide just due to the reduction in aerodynamic flow. And he just has to sit behind for now. But if Elias is showing this pace after saving those tyres, certainly could see himself poke his nose at Dimas if he's able to get past the Red Bull.
Yeah, and also crucially, Valentino Labella was just monitoring his gaps. He lost 2 tenths on the main start-finish straight, but now after that has almost gained a whole second, even though he's still halfway through that middle sector. So he's gaining heaps of time. And indeed, there we go. Tomasetto Elia, first of our championship competitors, dives in. It's Wojtek Steg who follows. And then we have Lucas Beisner also diving it into pit lane. But he gets a 10-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane. That could come back to bite him later on down the line. But Elia is the first one to start that sequence. Still a very, very early pit stop. So indeed, as you were saying, Max, we might indeed see a 2-stopper. But seeing how powerful the lap times on those hards are, if I look at Valentino Labella, I think they might need to try something different, especially the drivers up ahead. Now that Alaya has come in, they have to respond, although Lago has that luxury of not having to respond just yet, as he is on the hard.
Yeah, he certainly does. He's going to be just in this one for the long run now, Largo, and I think he's going to start to push on around about now. I wouldn't be surprised if we see him in maybe around about lap 16 to 18, I think will be his pit window. Just go on an extra few laps and then push all the way until he possibly can, and then he'll be on the mediums to charge his way back up through the field. Is anyone going to respond from the front lot? Yes, Vaso, Dimas, Kennis all in, and Vaso's picked up 10 seconds! Steven Vaso, 10-second time penalty, and that could be his championship hopes dashed by just locking up the brakes into the pit lane.
Oh, he's actually been stuck in pit lane awfully long as well, and that's cost him some places. He's behind Dimas, he's behind Canis, and he's only just ahead of Dennis Langrock. And I think with that, he's also going to lose out to the likes of Steg and perhaps Alaya also. So Steven Vaso, he entered pit lane as first, but now after this, he's already down in P5 and still a 10-second penalty to his name. And as you said, Max, I think that's it for any hopes that Vaso might have had at still clinging on to that title, at least staying within that championship fight. But these 10 seconds, unless we have a safety car, will be impossible to overcome, even if there is another pit stop. We see 2 stoppers throughout this race. But let's go back to the front of the field. Lago is, of course, going to stay out. But what does Kokeni do? Kokeni's going to dive in. Claudio Diaz is going to follow. Sixten, Linhard, and Oleg. Oleg stays out, but Linhard does go into pit lane. So all but one of the medium runners have now gone into pit lane. And after that first sequence, it's Alexander Dimas who stays ahead. But Alaya also close in second, and he's gained some crucial positions here.
He certainly has gained a lot of crucial places as he's now all over the back of Alexander Dimas. You could see Diaz now coming up behind Labella and potentially even behind Zalan Bieda, or will be behind Bieda, as of course 16 Linhart also into the pit lane with him. Of course, Alaya not going to go for the move just yet. I think he's just going to work with Dimas at the moment, not squabble too aggressively, save the tyres, and also just try and build a big of a gap as possible that they can over Francesco Largo, because they need to. Vaso to the inside of Giovanni Kennis. Is he going to be able to get the move done now round the outside of the Pinarinio? It's going to be late on the brakes into the Pico to Pato. This surely goes into Vaso's favour, and it does. Aggressive racing from Steven Vaso. The Ukrainian moves himself up into 10th. Next on his list is Wojtek Steg as Kokeni comes into pit lane. I think Napadovsky will follow. No, he stays out even longer. He's going to be risking a puncture soon. But for Steven Vaso, he's up an extra place. But at the moment, it means nothing with that penalty to his name.
No, and seeing how long these drivers stay out now, if Napadovsky can stay out for 16 laps, he might be able to go for that one stop, where I'm not sure as if the other drivers are able to do the same thing. But yeah, Kokeni, with staying out so long, has dropped all the way to the back of the grid, finds himself in P17 for now. Vaso, I was just before he made that overtake going to mention that because he has this penalty, will have to drive way more aggressive than he's used to. And just as I was thinking that, managed to get that overtake done onto Kennis into turn 8, into the S's. But now, next target for him is Wojtek Steg, who managed to jump him in that pit stop, stopping, of course, a lap earlier than Vaso, so is provisionally in P3, but still out there in P8 with other drivers yet to make a pit stop. Lago has built up a nice cushion, though, to Daniel Kyer behind, as Boba now goes for the overtake onto him. But I wonder where Francesco Lago is going to come back out on, because Kokeni was a little bit behind. I think the way that the things are now, Max, we might see him come back right around Rowson and Beisner, but I think he's going to stay out a little bit longer, and that might push him back a little bit more. But even though, if he does get out just behind Kokeni on those mediums, we'll have a much better run. As Sixten Linhart also picked up a time penalty and has retired from the session.
Yeah, unfortunate there for Linhart. It's just not been his race at all. As actually, look at that. There was Stephen Vasso having a little look out of the Sino de Largo at Wojtek Steg. No move being made there, but is he going to look for a lunge into turn 8? He went for it, just had to back out of it. Steg was wise to the move. He did move a little bit under braking, but all is fair in love and war. And for Stephen Vasso, he's going to have to wait another day to see a move be made. Francesco Largo still pushing on. He's now going to be on 18 lap old tyres by the time he comes into pit lane. Now Napadovsky comes into the pits. I think if he stayed out one more, he surely was going to puncture, and he lost about 3 seconds over the course of the past 2 laps. So this man here, Alexander Dimas, who took pole position by the barest of margins and has been looking to try and fight back in this championship. See what he possibly can do, as Kennis has got back past Stephen Vasso. What happened to Vasso there? He was right behind Wojtek Steg, and now he's just completely fallen off a cliff. Has he unfortunately gone deep into the center S's? He won't be able to get the move back done into the Sino de Largo. And for Stephen Vasso, what was looking like he's making his way further up the order, he's now coming under pressure from Dennis Langrock, who looked to the outside line.
Yeah, must have made a mistake there heading into turn 1. That's cost him to lose out on Kennis. We saw that the gap was over a second as well, as he was running down the Retta Opossa, but thankfully with Kennis getting that overtake onto him, they're back within one and the same DRS train. So all the way down from P5 to P16, they're still in that same DRS train. And that's especially good news for, well, Tommaso Kenny, who, even though he stopped also late and lost some places, he is on those freshest tires, but I think all the way through, Dimas has done the best. He stopped fairly late comparison to the other drivers, but has managed to stay ahead of every single one of them. Further up ahead, Lago, yeah, I think it will be a couple more laps until we're going to see them come in. But the main question here is, can you stay out long enough so you can go for a 1 stop? Or are you going to stop just a bit earlier so you go for 2? But I think, Max, most of these drivers are going to try to make that 1 stop happen, bar maybe Valentino Labella, where things stopped just a little bit too early.
Yeah, Labella, I think, went a little bit too early on that one. I think the 1 stop is definitely possible with everybody else. I mean, if Napadovsky can take those mediums 17 laps into the race, you can easily take the hards a good 20, 23 laps into this one. You're going to make them nicely to the end. I mean, a good delta-wise would be looking at Francesco Largo and seeing how far he can take those hards, because he was in the train for a majority of his stint. If he can take them 10, 15 laps, 20 to 25 laps, you easily can make it to the end of the race. So for Largo, he still pushes on. He's on lap 20 of 36 at the moment. We've got 17 laps to go in this Grand Prix, and he could wrap up the title tonight. But as things currently stand here, Miff, Dimas and Alaya do have that upper hand, because, of course, Largo still have to make his way through the field.
Yeah, and that is going to be the key question tonight. How much positions can Largo gain on better tires and on those mediums? Especially the first couple laps are going to be key to eat away at the gap that's going to unfold, and then to overtake all the other drivers. But I want to see what lap times they're doing. So by how much Francesco Largo is losing every single lap, because I don't think the difference is more than a second here, and that could be great news for him, meaning that he can stay out just a little bit longer. Francesco Largo is now coming towards the line, about to start lap 21. I'm not seeing the stats there, so I couldn't quite see what lap he was able to do. I'll have to compare it with Dimas later on. I'll have to come back with you on that one. 10-2 for Dimas.
A 10-2 from Dimas, so we'll keep an eye on what Francesco Largo does on this lap. Of course, the tyres have a bit more wear on them as Kokeni gets past his teammate of Zalan Bieda. We'll quickly bring up the lap data as well to show you guys on the stream what exactly these guys are doing. We can compare the middle sector splits as well. So for Francesco Largo, as he makes his way through the middle part of the lap, what is it going to be for him? This is a first little correlation we can see between Dimas and Francesco Largo. How much quicker are those fresher mediums? 55.0 coming the way of Francesco Largo. I think by the time he reaches the start-finish line, Dimas will hit that second sector split line. So it's 55.0 for Largo, a 53.9 for Alexander Dimas. About a second quicker so far, 11.5 for Francesco Largo as he crosses the line, and for Alexander Dimas as he now makes his way down that main straight. So 11.5 we're looking for. What's it going to be for Dimas? A 10.3. He's 1.2 seconds faster at the moment.
Yeah, so it's slightly more than we were anticipating, and that gap, of course, is going to continue to build as Dimas is on 8 lap-old hards, and Francesco Largo, of course, yet to pit on 21 lap-old hards. I think at the end of this or the next lap, he's going to come in because he is within that window that he can make it work on the mediums. As for Dimas, with 14 laps still to go, we'll have to do about the same stint as Francesco Largo if he decides to go in at the end of the next lap. So yeah, I think this or next lap, we're going to see our current race leader come in. And let's see, he's now for a 55.1, so he's significantly quicker down this lap. So I think Maxi is already pushing a bit and going to come in at the end of this lap, which we're going to find out right about now, but he stays out. I was wrong.
Stays out for a little bit longer, does the, of course, a V-Carb driver, Largo, of the leader of the championship, is trying to do everything he can to maximise the points he scores over the next few rounds. As Casper Flack is actually the first one in from those hards to then move on to those medium compounded tyres. Easily got to go to the end. He'll need to do 13 laps on them, and that is very easily possible. So for Flack, he will come out quite a way behind Oleg Napodovsky. Of course, 4 seconds further ahead was Francesco Largo, or more about 5 seconds to Casper Flack. So he will come out just behind Oleg Napodovsky here, Largo, if he pits now. Potentially a little bit further back, but he will still be behind the Silver Arrows.
And I think that's what he will be gunning for. He's hoping to at least get ahead of Oleg Napodovsky. We now see him come through Junsao. So I think now is the time that he has to come in. And hopefully for him, he doesn't lose enough lap time onto Napodovsky. But I think he'll be behind about 5 to 7 tenths as he's going to exit pit lane. And hopefully can already make a move down the middle sector. Otherwise, he'll be losing too much. And indeed, all 3 hard runners have now come in. And this is our crucial moment. Dimas, of course, will take over the race lead. But where is Francesco Largo going to come out in comparison to Oleg Napodovsky? He's now coming through at the main straight. He's doing a 109.9 as he dives into the Senna S's. Largo is still slightly ahead, but there they go, almost side by side. And as they exit pit lane, he will indeed be behind Oleg Napodovsky. But that is not by much. That is less than a second, maybe slightly more, 1.4. So we'll have the time to gain that back into the middle sector and then down the start-finish straight, go for the overtake. But actually, Napodovsky is gaining quite a bit on the drivers up ahead, of which Claudio Diaz has just picked up a 3-second time penalty.
This is going to be a very interesting end to this race here. So, folks at home, don't go anywhere. Well, if you do go somewhere, make sure you take your phone or your computer with you, because you're going to want to watch this one. Maybe refill your snacks in this little lull period before Largo catches up to the back of this train with Napodovsky. Kenneth was able to get back in front of Stephen Vassar as they squabbled through the middle sector. It's DRS open for the pair of them, and Vassar will not be close enough for a lunge into the Senna S's. And look how much Francesco Largo has already gained onto Napodovsky. It was 1.4 seconds by the time he came out of pit lane. He's done a lap, and he's already 4 seconds behind. He's a second quicker on a driver on the freshest set of hard compound tyres there is. He could cut through the field like a knife through butter, and look at that for Largo. He's already up into 13th spots.
Yeah, and he's now 2 seconds down. The next man in line, that's the McLaren of Claudio Diaz. I think even if we come to the start-finish straight, he will be driving himself within that DRS window just by how much he's gaining. And look at that, already 1.5. It feels like we're almost counting down 0.4, 0.3s. But now comes the crucial bit. Can he get within a second of Claudio Diaz just up ahead? And look at that, he already has been able to do so. Now it's all about closing up on the start-finish straight and into turn 4, make that move onto Diaz, and maybe if he's quick enough, even a double send onto Bieder as well. So let's see if we can get a nice onboard from Francesco Lago as he's going to take us through that first sector. That is going to be a crucial one. How easy is it to overtake? He's doing a 108.8. That's a second quicker or more than the drivers up ahead. But this is where it matters. The exit through the San Asses. Round the Curva del Sol he goes. He's already gaining. Battery charging up ahead from Claudio Diaz. He's gone past on the inside, but have to wait a little bit before he can catch Zanan Bieder up ahead. But he's so much quicker in that middle sector. Can he make a move there?
Could he do so? That was very weak defending there from Claudio Diaz. Just let him by nice and easily. If I was in that situation, I want to fight this guy for his life because I'm not letting him take this championship easy, and I want to prove myself. But he's got past Alan Bieder beautifully to the inside at 8, round the outside of Pinarino, and he's nearly threatening on knocking the door for the points-paying positions. But he is coming up against the first of those championship rivals, Tamashko Kenny. He's not going to back down without a fight. He will want to keep this position. But are those medium tyres just too good and will just overpower the Hungarian over the course of the next few corners? We're on lap 27 of 36. 10 laps to go in this Grand Prix, so 1 car a lap that Francesco Lago has to overtake in this one. Let's see how good this run is as we now open up the DRS down at the Retro Posta, and you can see Kokeni already trying to use the slipstream from the Bella and also break the slipstream from Largo. He really wants to keep this position.
Yeah, and this is now also where the tricky thing is going to start for Largo. His window of opportunity is starting to close a little bit. The driver's up ahead, even though they're on much older tires. The worst news for him is that the driver on the newest set of tires that he still has to overtake is Kokeni. We'll have to try to go round the outside here of Pico de Bato. Gets pushed a bit wide by Kokeni. Side by side they go through Mergullo. It's a little bit of contact there. Kokeni's not backing down, but has to yield into Junsao. And there was no way that he could hold back onto Lago, but it looks like he's not done trying. He's gearing up close. He's using as much battery as he can potentially use. He has to go for a send down the inside. He's too far back. Kokeni is beaten, and that might mean the end of his championship hopes for how much they were still alive, as Lago is now soothing to the back of Valentino Labella just further up ahead. Can he already make the move into the Cida de Lago? He can't just yet, but might make the move down that second sector and take back P9.
He certainly might, but I think we are now going to see these drivers fight a little bit more aggressively because these are for the points. These drivers want those points because they've got their own individual mini championship battles, even if they're not in that main picture. So they're not going to give this up that easily at all. As you can see, Labella parking his car absolutely beautifully to block Largo from having any opportunity. Just put it in the middle of the road. Can't go anywhere, Mr. Largo. You're going to have to just sit behind. But it's all about this run now. Out of Yunsao, and the Bella has got a decent exit. He's still within DRS range as well of Lucas Beisner. So we'll have that rear wing open, and we'll use the battery to keep the V-car behind. Is Largo going to look for a tiny gap to the inside? No, he's going to swoop around the outside. There's some slight contact made. Largo forced a little bit wide, but he makes his way through crucially. Next on his list will be Lucas Beisner in that battle for 8th.
Yeah, that also opens up the door for Tomas Kokeni, who's trying to fight with Labella. Has to stay behind, at least for now. Wants to try and make some move happen. He's also close to the back of that Haas, and he knows this is for some points, even though 2 drivers up ahead have 10-second time penalties. But there goes Tomas Kokeni. Down the inside he goes into the S's. There's a little bit of contact as we see the Haas driver go wide. Another set of contact making their way through the Pinarino, and he will indeed be ahead of Valentino Labella. But let's go back to Francesco Lago. 3 tenths down on Lucas Beisner. Beisner does have a penalty to his name, but for Lago, that does not matter. He has to get the overtake done if he wants to gain more places. So here we go then. Already energy saving from Beisner coming in, so he can take that shorter line. Is already ahead of Lucas Beisner, and the Gick Sauber did not put up any fines. Next in line, Jansen Rausen for P7.
Well, we know Ralston, he will not back down. He certainly loves to prove a point, and he does not fear anybody. He's someone who has had a tricky season, and we spoke to him last time out after his first podium. He wants to keep pushing on and getting good results. Why would he let 7th place go against Francesco Largo? So it really is having to be a champion's drive from the V-Carb to even carve his way through this field, because he's got so many enemies at the moment who just want to hang on to their positions. It's not even about the championship. It's not even about the fact that they want to take points away from Largo. It's just for their own personal pride and their own personal positions in the championship. Why they want to hang on to as many points as possible. Not as close this time around as Largo to the back of Jensen or Ralston like he was with Beisner, and of course with Ralston, he's got a lovely toe from Dennis Lanrock in front, so it could be attack is the best form of defence here for the Williams man, and we might just start to see the roadblock start to form as at the front of the field, Thomas said to Elia, round the outside of Dimas, goes deep into the corner low, and this might give Dimas the opportunity to get the run out of the centre S's. Through turn 3 we go, side by side between the top two, both fighting for championship contention, both fighting to keep ahead of Largo, and for Dimas he's able to stay ahead, and that is crucial points for the Mercedes driver if he's able to hold on, but Elia will keep coming back at him.
Yeah, now around the outside, Francesco Largo wants to try and take it, goes a little bit too wide, has to try again, around the outside of the S's, and going into Pinarino, he is ahead and finds himself now in P7. Of course, it's a net P6 with Steven Vassel's penalty for speeding in the pit lane, but he's dispatched yet another driver, even where the fight at the top is also starting to kick off. So we're going to see some very interesting final few laps coming your way. But first up, let's go back to Francesco Largo. The gap up ahead to Langrock, 0.4 of a second, but will not be close enough towards the start-finish straight. Elias stays behind Alexander Dimas for now, and we see that Largo slotting in nicely behind Dennis Langrock through the center S's, getting a good run out of the Curva del Sol, is now 2.10s behind, might go for the move here. We see some defense by Dennis Langrock, and the gap is just too big to overcome. But we saw him take Jansen Ralston in the previous lap here. Kokeni is fighting tooth and nail with Beisner as he's now making his way into P9. As for Largo, we'll have to settle now for 7th. He can't get past Langrock just yet.
No, he certainly cannot. Langrock, of course, they're part of the same team odds, Elia and Langrock, so Thomas Senga will probably be on the phone saying, I know it's PSGL and it's mainly for the drivers, but we want you to potentially help out your teammates. It'll look a bit better on our credentials having a PC F3 champion in our hands. So try and keep Largo behind as much as you can. DRS open once we get to the detection zone. There we go, DRS open for the pair of them, and it just seems Largo is a little bit too far back for a lunge. Those tyres might be starting to wilt as well. They might be starting to fade away. And for Dennis Lanrock, he's able to stay in front once more, but it's all about this run now. There's a yellow flag in the background. It's a safety car!
Wait, what happened?
Podolski in the wall. I don't know what's happened to him. Oh, now this is some late race drama. A safety car. And for Francesco Largo, that could be so costly for his championship. I don't know if they will, because the safety car will be in once they catch up to it.
Well, the safety car will have to come in before the end of the race. We will have racing laps. The drivers up ahead are on such old tires that they can't go, but there's some horrible news for the Red Bull drivers in P3 and 4, because if they both go, one of them, and that is Kennis, will be all the way at the back. So I think Kennis will have to stay out. The other drivers are going to try and risk it. Steven Vasso, I don't think, can risk anything with that penalty there, because if he does go into pit lane, he will resume all the way at the back. Maybe try to go for some overtakes, but will be tough as well. But let's find out what the drivers are going to do. I think some of them have to risk it. because otherwise they're just going to be eaten up by the softs that will be able to push through all the way. So here we go then. Dimas is in. Elias stays out. Wojtek stays out. Kenneth stays out. Vassal does come in. Lago also stays out. All other drivers are staying out. There's actually only 6 drivers coming in, of which Alexander Dimas. Napadovsky is retired from the session. Dimas is going to resume in P. He's on mediums. Dimas is on mediums as well. He hasn't gone to softs and he's in P11. He has to overtake 10 cars in that final lap with all the other drivers staying out. This could cost Dimas a chance at the title.
That could be an absolute catastrophe for Alexander Dimas. I'm surprised he came in. I wouldn't have come in because track position is oh so crucial and he had the race lead. Everyone else was defending from Largo. You would have at least outscored him to just keep your title hopes alive. If it was a liar, it wouldn't be as... It would still be crucial, but it wouldn't be as dividends because he could still potentially keep himself in the fray. But for Alexander Dimas, we're about to get back underway. The safety car being at the end of this lap, it needs a minimum of 2 racing laps, does this game. And we could have just seen Alexander Dimas, the Dutchman, make a costly error.
He has 2 laps to do it, so that might be enough because those mediums are done for, the hards are done for. And with 2 laps, he might be able to do so. This is going to be a crazy final 2 laps.
It really is. A liar, of course, is going to just hold off. He's going to wait as long as he possibly can to go to that green flag because he does not want people to be jumped by Francesco Largo. But he's actually elected to go now. He wants to bolt away, and Largo already on the offensive with Dennis Lanrock as we make our way into the first corner. Who's going to come out on top here? Rosen potentially throwing it up the inside as well. Lanrock now the inside through the center S's. There's going to be some contact made on the exit. Nearly set into a spin was Largo as Rosen goes round the outside. Could he potentially capitalize on the pair of them?
On Dimas is absolutely stuck here. There's contact! Dimas is off the track. He won't be making any positions up there. He was way too close to the drivers up ahead. And now it's actually Tomasco Kenny who is the lead driver around the outside of Casper Flag, where we thought Kenny might have not any chance left for that championship title, is now fighting back and is already back into P8. It will now be all eyes on Kilkenny. Dimas's hopes for the championship are over. Vassal's hopes for the championship are over. And if Kilkenny doesn't go to the front of the field, his hopes will be dashed as well. But there he goes, into Jinsao, back up ahead as Vassal picks up another penalty. Kilkenny's already up in P7. He needs a monstrous final lap to overtake all the other drivers. Tomasetto Elias still ahead, but I think the biggest loss here of this safety car session definitely is Alexander Dimas, because this rules him out of the championship.
It certainly does as Baisner moves his way past Lanrock. They are on the final tour of this race, and as things currently stand, it will be Tomasetto Elia who takes the championship lead into the final race. So Largo tried something different. He would have had the laps if the safety car didn't come out. Kilkenny now to the inside of Boba. Boba sent round, and Dennis Lanrock is out of the race. He's got into the wall at the Sino de Largo. Off the road in the background, I think that was Alexander Dimas. There's contact between him and Vasso. Two of the championship contenders round at turn 6 and 7. But for Tomasetto Elia, he might just be staring at reclaiming the championship lead after a torrid Mexico City. Elia, unless Largo can get this move done now, there's contact with Largo. Largo now falls down the field. He's down to 7th place, and it's going to be Tomasetto Elia who wins the chaotic end to this Brazilian Grand Prix, and he will claim the championship lead into Abu Dhabi. It's Elia who puts in one hand on the trophy. It's Steg from Kilkenny, from Rosen by 700ths, then Baisner and Francesco Largo in 6th place, and that will give him a total of 5 points to 16. It's going to be 3 points in the lead for Tomasetto Elia heading into Abu Dhabi, a duel in the deserts. And Largo, he went for the move to the inside of Kennis, and it all went horribly wrong.
there's going to be an awful lot of reports about that final lap. I think we see Kokani now in third after a crazy final lap, but he had massive contact up ahead. That is going to be reviewed. Of course, Francesco Lago had contact with the Red Bull driver. That is going to be reviewed. And if it does, it could send him back even more points. But the driver that's kept his nose clean had the guts to stay out of it and go for a final few laps as race leader in the safety car. He is now your new championship leader with one race to go. Thomas Setualaya does it in the Aston Martin. He finishes ahead of Wojciech Steg in second. Then it's Tomasz Kokeni, of course, pending reviews, ahead of Ralston. Beister still in fifth after that late pit stop. Lago in sixth. Kenneth seventh. Eighth for Daniel Carr. Ninth for Labella, still picking up some points. And 10th for Casper Flagg. But the real driver's missing out here. Alexander Dimas by making that pit stop. Who could have guessed that everyone was going to stay out? Vaso is in 14th. He's also out of the championship. And I think Kokani is not going to gain enough points on Lago unless we're going to see some works in the stewards' room. Let me just do the counting. No, he's not going to be close enough to Alaya either. So that means that for our final race of the season next week, Max, it's down to 2. Whatever happens, even with penalties still to come, Thomas Setualaya and Francesco Lago are going to fight it out in Abu Dhabi. But Max, that were the craziest 2 laps I've seen throughout this entire season. As some drivers said, this was absolute cinema.
It was absolute cinema. That was absolutely insane. That went all the way down to the wire. That might have just given Elia the championship. He kept his cool, he kept his head, he kept clean throughout the whole race. And he decided to head back over and keep the race lead. He didn't come into pit lane when the safety car came out. He knew track position was crucial. Sorry, you guys just saw the lobby there. Did not mean to forget to change to the comms corner. It's just the adrenaline that's throwing through us right now, Myth. We saw Dimas throw away the title. You essentially could say that. He threw away the title with that pit stop. I think he was expecting more to come in, but especially on this game compared to 24, it's just so difficult when it comes to overtaking if everybody else comes into pit lane, and track position is so much more vital on this game that if you are the lead driver or second place, you're in a lot more of a safer spot than if you do come in and you're down to 11th place. You've got to fight your way through the field, and incidents like that do occur. And that's exactly what happened. Oh, that was just absolute insanity. And yeah, for Thomas Setualaya, he played the cards right. He did everything he needed to do. We came into this one thinking Lago could wrap it up or even put one hand on that title. But no, Elia has gone, thank you very much. I'll take that championship lead from your hands.
Yeah, what a final few laps that were. I thought for sure when I saw the safety car that a lot of drivers were going to come in because those softer tires are going to be so much more of an advantage. I was surprised to even see Dimas come out on the mediums. I'm not sure if he didn't have any softs left or if he just made a mistake there. But that might have also hurt him a little bit down the line. But I think he was expecting a lot of drivers to come in, maybe 5-6 drivers to stay out, including, I think, Lago might have stayed out as well. I think that was his go-to plan all the way. But with so many drivers staying out, Elia just got the better hand of it. And yeah, that safety car caused by Oleg Napadovsky proving to be a real, a thorn in the path of Dimas' way to the title. Actually a deal breaker, as Dimas is now out of championship contention. But we've seen a crazy race. We've yet to have the interviews with the top 3. I wonder if we're going to hear from anyone. Of course, I think most of the drivers are just worried about, at least the ones finishing a bit further back, is are we going to send anything to the stewards? Will anything be reported? I think there will be at least a few cases that we saw in the final lap that are going to go to the stewards room. But wow. I mean, I know Interlagos always delivers, but this was not what I was expecting for a final few laps.
It's not what I was expecting at all. it all started from that safety car. We were thinking about Largo slicing his way through the field, if not finishing at least third in that one, and who would come out on top in Dimas and Alaya. The safety car came out and blew it all out of the water. None of the top three are in the waiting room just yet, just waiting to see if any of them have replied to my message. We've got two who have put thumbs down, Steg and Alaya. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's the same for Tamashko Kenny. Vasso said in the chat, he's 10-second time penalty. Sorry about you seeing my phone. That was me just reading for the drivers. Vasso said he sped by 1 kilometre an hour. That was how close he got. 1 kilometre an hour could have just changed the whole entire part of this race. But yeah, that was absolute insanity. I mean, Jensen Ralston's waiting for an interview, but he's not top 3. But should we get his thoughts on those final laps anyway?
I think it was crazy enough to warrant interviews outside the top 3. And
I think it was.
Here, and I think he's hoping for a penalty for Kokeni that he still picks up the podium. But I'd love to hear how he experienced those final 2 laps. So let's move him in.
Right, there we go. There we go, Mr. Jensen Ralston. Congratulations on your provisional P4. I think we should say provisional to everyone, but potentially Alaya and Steg. Just talk us through that race, and especially those final 2 laps. How was that?
Yeah, difficult race. I mean, yeah, I wanted to get past Dennis for the, after. I mean, I was saving a bit initially on the stint just to try and get the saving out of the way for when the medium runners caught up. And yeah, began pushing, and I just still couldn't get past Dennis. It's just this track is so difficult to get past in a train because yeah, we're all 4 tenths within each other, and all the same DRS battery, everything. So it's not easy. But yeah, when that safety car came out, I was kind of annoyed because I thought Largo basically just got a free pass to keep ahead of me because it's basically 2 laps where his tyres aren't wearing more than mine. So I was a bit frustrated, and I was quite surprised to see, I don't know, someone from ahead of me boxing. Yeah, definitely got stressed about behind because I didn't expect Tamash to, you know, move through the field so quickly, and then all of a sudden I see him, you know, 2 places behind me, and I'm like, oh boy, this isn't, yeah, he's going to get me, isn't he? But yeah, because I just had 0 grip compared to him, but he took out Berber. I saw that in turn 4. And I think maybe some other people have reports on him. I don't know whether they're going to report him or not, but fingers crossed, you know. Yeah, I don't know. So yeah, it was very stressful last 2 laps. I mean, I've only been put in this position because I think Giovanno and Francesco took each other out right, literally second last corner. So yeah, definitely lucky to be in P4 even if I don't get the podium. But yeah, I guess bit of luck finally this season. Yeah, so happy with the result either way, P3 or P4.
Yeah, it was a very eventful end to the race, and yeah, again, another super strong result from you. What has been a difficult season. I think this past 2 races have certainly shown what you've been capable of, and I think what me and Myth both know that you are capable of doing, and that is putting in high opportunity top 5s, these top 3 results. So yeah, it is good to see you at the top of the pecking order, but it was Dimas who came in from in front of you. If you were in his shoes, of course, he was fighting to keep his hopes alive. Would you have came in under that safety car, or would you have stayed out?
Absolutely not. I mean, I basically, yeah, in theory lost 1 position to Tamash, and then if I'm like multiple positions ahead of that, I realistically would have never been behind Tamash. So yeah, I don't really know why. Yeah, I definitely wouldn't have done it myself, but Yeah, I guess in that moment it's kind of a you have to make that decision, and yeah, sometimes you get it wrong. So unfortunate for him, but I don't think I would have boxed. It's just because yeah, with 2 laps remaining, maybe you can get like 10 cars maximum. But you like he was what was he like podium position, right?
He was first. He was leading.
Oh really? Yeah. So let's be real, he's never going to get that back unless there was even more carnage. So yeah, maybe drivers make mistakes, or I don't know, maybe it was an engineer. Cool. Those things happen. I've done it before when it's the last minute safety car. You're in the last corner. You need to make that decision, choose the box, and then you realize, oh, it's too late now to change that. So yeah, it happens, but I don't think I would have.
One of those moments where Dimas he played the risk and unfortunately lost, but this result now moves you to 7th place in the standings. If you do get that 3rd place, only be about 4 points off the top 5. Is the top 5 possible in the final round for you, Jensen, or is it just potentially a little bit too far?
Yeah, it's definitely possible. I mean, Abu Dhabi's a good track for me. It's going to be difficult. I mean, I'm going to have to maximize everything I can next week if I do. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's going to be strange because, yeah, if I can get a good quali, then there's definitely a good chance because this season has been, as much as I, like to point the blame of bad luck, I haven't been very strong in quali this season, as F4 as well. I've always been stronger in race this game, so yeah, if I can get that lap in, then there's definitely a chance for maybe a win. But yeah, I think practice wasn't ideal for this race either. I just haven't really had time with the mocks and kind of misjudged. Like, I didn't really practice over the weekend or anything because I thought, oh well, I can probably get away with some Monday, Tuesday, weekdays, and then mocks, revision, etc. just taking up a lot of time on my schedule. So yeah, if I can fix that, then definitely a better chance next week. I think Abu Dhabi is similar kind of to Brazil for me in terms of pace. So yeah, there's opportunities. I'd still. It's not the end of the world if I don't get a top 5 because I wasn't expecting that. But yeah, I've already met what I wanted to achieve this season. So yeah, no complaints.
Been a fantastic, especially for you. Just Myth, do you have any questions for Jensen?
I'm not sure if there's much more to add to that. Of course, we have one final dance in Abu Dhabi next week. It looks like the championship fight is going to come down to Lago and Elia. Who the two will you be rooting for, or do you not mind who takes the title here?
I'm neutral, to be honest. I mean, I don't really talk with either a lot, so yeah. I've got no problems with either of them. Just not really bothered whoever wins, but yeah, good luck to both of them, whoever wins, then good for them.
Very good. Well, I think that rounds off my questions, Max. So let's go back to you.
Yeah, that's all from me as well, Jensen. So congratulations on this evening. Hope, you never know, you might get P3 after the inquiries, but celebrate that P3 well at the moment. Very good result. So, yeah, for the rest of your evening.
Yeah, cheers, you too. Bye-bye.
Well, that was our one and only interview of the evening. That's Jensen Rosen taking us through what was a chaotic Grand Prix. Next time out, we head to Abu Dhabi, the duel in the desert. It goes from 5 possible to 2. It is going to be very, very eventful. Elia has the upper hand. But we know, especially from tonight here, Myth, that doesn't really matter.
No, it does not matter indeed. But the main question is, how big is that lead going to be? Now, Lago finished P6, so he's going to pick up 5 extra points. Elias picked up 11 more, so he has a 4-point lead now over Lago. Although I do think it's very likely that Lago is going to pick up a time penalty there for the contact. So I think he's going to drop down a little bit more. So I think we're going to see the gap, well, maybe similar, between 7 and 9 points between Elia and himself. So they'll have to claw that back in the final race, and Elia will be defending that. Yeah, for Dimas, he's out of the equation. Vaso out of the equation. Kokeni is still going to be under investigation as well. That might help Jensen Ralston in the fight for even a potential P4 in the standings if Kokeni's penalty is harsh enough. But yeah, further up ahead, it seems to be done and dusted. For Dimas, P3 seems to be pretty much set, but Lago and Elia are going all the way down to the wire next week in Abu Dhabi to see who claims that F3 title and who we might see next season in F2.
Yes, certainly is. It's going to be one last dance in the desert for this season, and it's going to be the duel between Lago and Elia. You will not want to miss this one at 7 PM UK time, 8 PM in time. But it's going to be all about those two in the championship. Lago has come strong at the very end of the season. He took it away from Elia, built that gap. Elia has come swinging straight back. They have been heavyweights for the previous 9 rounds. 1 more round to go. Who is going to get that knockout blow to take that title? Lago versus Elia next Thursday at 7 PM. Not want to miss. Thank you all very much for watching. Stay safe, stay well, and we shall see you in the finale. Thank you, and goodbye.